welcome, Monica. And hopefully everybody out there has gotten to see her talk about implementing universal checkout at Primer. So, yeah, Monica, I might just jump into the questions and kind of some of the thoughts that came up to me anyway about the kind of your talk and some of the questions that I had. But do feel free if you're out there, there's the chat box at the side, throw in your questions as well if you have anything.
Awesome.
So first, I just want to dig into, can you give a little bit of context about Primer? Like, what's the scale and what are we talking about in terms of the teams and how they work together?
Right. So Primer it's an infrastructure or automation platform for payments and commerce, really. And we're just about slightly more than 2 years old. And so we've grown from when I joined, we're 8 people on the team in May 2020. And today we're, I think, 120 or 130 people in, I don't know how many countries, but we're fully remote. So I've lost track of how many countries we have employees in.
Excellent. And do you have, is that primarily like kind of tech focused people, or is there also a lot on the kind of the sales and the marketing side?
We have obviously a massive engineering team, but we also have a big design team and sales team, both in Southeast Asia, US and Europe. And of course, marketing.
Brilliant. I'm going to jump to a little bit of the elephant in the room now, because we're talking about universal checkout, and the news has been quite big about there was a high profile company called Fast that went out of business there about probably 2-3 weeks ago now. So it sounds like Primer and Fast are in the same kind of product space. Would that be fair? And then what's to stop? Why is Primer going to succeed where Fast didn't?
Yeah, so Primer also has a checkout. Obviously, we've spoken about the checkout, but Primer is a lot more than just a checkout. So a checkout is part of our payment service. So in Primer, you have the automation engine and the payment service, and the checkout is a part of that. Obviously, we have massive ambitions for our checkout, and a one-click checkout experience, such as the one that Fast was promoting, is one of them. And it's very interesting that, what happened to Fast, and it obviously happened very, very fast overnight. It went from this massive valuation and, investors were very, very keen on the company. I think what they did that was interesting was that they were targeting consumers. So they were trying to build a consumer brand and positioning it as solving a consumer problem of the hassle of paying online. And I think it seemed like they did a fairly good job, at least like I was seeing Fast everywhere as a consumer. Well, maybe I was researching payments, so maybe that's not fair to say. Anyways, but I feel like
I was seeing it everywhere as well.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think that they had many customers. And if it would be my guess, I would guess that it was because Fast got an investment from Stripe and they were locked in to only process payments with Stripe. And that is a problem for merchants. So merchants don't want to check out that only works with Stripe. So I think this was holding back their expansion.
Okay, that's great. So we'll move on from kind of the competitor space. One thing I just found really interesting about your talk was you mentioned the founder kind of reaching out to you, and Jesper's talk was all about how do you balance the priorities of everybody. But what are you supposed to do when the founder, or how did you manage it when the founder came to you with kind of an idea? Do you run with it, or do you try to make sure that it's more than just the founder kind of telling you what to do?
Oh, it wasn't the case, right? Like the founder was asking me to jump on a call with a customer, and this was, one of our first customers. This was my first week. This is actually the first week before I even started at Primer. So I was already kind of like onboarding and starting to talk with the team, but I wasn't even like officially on the team. So we had, I think, probably like 2 or 3 bigger clients that we were really interested in working together with as we were building out, the MVP of the product. And one of them were asking for a checkout. So it was 100%, driven by a customer request. And at that point, when you're like 3 months old and you actually have a big customer who's asking for something, there is just like, yeah, you just have to jump on it and like, let's figure it out. And it turned out to be, a really good move. The checkout is obviously like a key success driver and really important product for Primer.
Excellent. And then, you kind of mentioned like you were starting before you even started, but that growth trajectory that you've seen, how has that impacted kind of design at Primer? Like, so if you're going from that kind of small 8-person, very manageable kind of single team to this kind of explosive growth, how have you managed that scaling of design?
So I think it's a really good idea to involve design from the very beginning. So one of the reasons I decided to join Primer in the first place was that the founders were actually speaking to me. So they reached out to me and said, like, design and product is really, really important to us. So, it's still very, very early and we want design and product to be involved from this early stage. And I think if you do that, you're already in a very, very good position to be a design-driven company. That doesn't mean that you're not a tech company or you're not, customer focused. It's one of the things that you want, one of the areas that you want represented. I think that a lot of companies bring on design and UX way too late in the growth journey. And kind of treat design as, making things pretty at the last stage when everything else has been sort of defined and decided. So when you have that like design thinking and you value design and design is kind of a part from the very beginning, then it never becomes a problem, right? Like it's just part of your process and and you're always involved in decisions. So I don't feel like we've struggled or had to like think about it actively. I've been lucky to, have a lot to say at Primer and feel like I've had a massive impact because I was there so early and because, design and user experience is very valued at Primer. So, in the very beginning, I was doing everything myself. And then over time, I could hire 2 designers. And now I have many designers in my team. So one thing that you need to, be ready to do or like when you're working with a company with this growth trajectory is like adaptability. You have to like change and like thrive in an atmosphere of constant change. And it's fine. Like some people don't do that, right? But I think I get very easily bored. So I think it's awesome that my role has changed tremendously from my first week or the week before I officially started to, leading product design and having like a team of, I think, 11 people right now. So what I've had to do is just learn, grow, improve, listen to feedback, adapt, and we're constantly changing structure and processes and teams to adapt to, the strategy, the market, to, the product areas that we want to build out. And I think, if you also have that adaptability and you're comfortable with that, it doesn't become a problem where you constantly have to think about like how to reorganize, how to restructure organization.